When my mum was around about the age of 30, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She started to lose the use of her legs. The nervous system was attacking the functioning in her legs, and she became bedridden. And while she was bedridden, she asked my dad if he would take her to an energy healer, which he did. He took her to an energy healer, and she went in and she was wheeled into the lady's house in a wheelchair. She had the energy healing done on her body, and she walked out of that house. And she walked out of the house and she jumped the front wall of the lady's home and got in the car and came home. And she was the happiest I'd ever seen her. 2 days later, she was bedridden again. And I want to talk about this um, because this is, I believe, the power of the mind. And it could be a lot deeper because I don't know that any of us really have the answers, but what we do have is our own perception of our own experiences. So when I share that story with people and say that she went in a wheelchair, went to a healer, and came out walking, but then 2 days later she wasn't walking. It depends, the perception of what people believe happened depends on what is in each person's belief system. So if somebody has a very religious programmed mind, if they believe there is a God, they believe in faith, they believe in prayer, they believe in healing, they believe that. If I tell somebody like that this story, the reactions that I have got from people with that kind of perception is that my mother lost faith. I haven't heard anybody yet blame God for taking away her legs. I haven't heard anybody say it was just her body doing what it was doing. They've all said that it was my mother's fault for losing faith. So that is a perception that certain people have from their own programmed belief system. Then, when I've spoken to people that are very spiritually aligned and have a lot of beliefs around soul contracts, their perception is that my mother did get healed for a moment, but then suddenly remembered that in this lifetime she was meant to experience life with a disability so that her soul could understand what that existence felt like. So she returned back to the authenticity of what her soul wanted her to have. That is a perception from a belief system of people with that programmed thought. Then there has been psychologists that have suggested that the mind can convince somebody that they are not worthy of being healthy and well, and so they have to keep themselves in a sick state. So that kind of perception also comes through. Now, so far we have three different perceptions, and each one may believe they are right. Then we have people that talk about manifesting, and the manifesting or that our thoughts create our reality. So my mother created that. Her own thoughts created her to believe in something for a moment and then to convince herself it didn't work. So her own thoughts did that, which then made the body go back to what it was and not functioning how it should. So that's how they would explain that situation away. And then you can also have the science behind things, where the science of the actual the lining of the nervous system, it gets attacked by the body, which exposes the nerves. So scientifically, maybe there was a brief moment where she was in a remission for some reason at that time. She felt her legs moving again, and then the the actual science of the body, the health of the body, was actually causing her to be bedridden again. So you've got all these different perceptions. Now, who's right? Because each person believes they are right. And this is what I have discovered over the years of doing this kind of work, is really understanding each person has their own perception based on what is programmed into their mind as to how they see things. And when you see things a certain way, that is how you believe it. And the more you open your own mind to many possibilities, you start to see, I can actually see everybody's. In that whole situation, I can see all 5 different perceptions and understand where they're coming from. Doesn't mean I agree, doesn't mean I disagree. All it means is I can see where they are coming from and why they are coming to that conclusion based on their own lived experience and what they have programmed into their own mind. So my mum ended up going on to, she was in bed for quite a long time. I remember like a year or 2 years. She could get out of bed to use a walking frame, but then she kind of got her strength back. Now, whether I didn't see her doing, I was only a teenager at the time. I didn't see her doing exercises to strengthen her legs. All I remember is that she was in bed for a very, very long time, and then she was using a walking frame for a very long time. So whether she had talked herself into then being able to strengthen her own legs and convince herself that she could do this, whether the disease itself went into some form of remission where she actually could feel her legs, I don't know. And she ended up living till she was 74. And it was the last about 15 years before she passed away. She'd been coping by using a walking frame. She had lost a part of her sight as well, and she could still use her hands. She could still feed herself. Her mind was quite slow, but she actually fell backwards in the bathroom, brushing her teeth one morning, and she broke her coccyx bone, the bottom of the spine. And because you need about 6 weeks for a bone to heal, she had to lay still for 6 weeks, and in that 6 weeks, her body just gave up. So she totally lost the use of her bottom half of her body for the last 10 years. So she was bowel and bladder incontinent and could not walk at all, and could even feel her legs at all. So then she was full-time in a wheelchair, and Dad used to use a carry frame to lift her from the bed to the chair where she sat in her chair. And one thing I really learnt from her was that an acceptance of when she was younger and she tried to fight the disease and she tried to find cures and she tried to heal things and she was trying everything. Nothing was working. And she was her energy was very frustrated and upset, as you would imagine, because life was not happening how she wanted it to. But at some point, she got this incredible peace within herself, a peace of, this is my existence. And it was this acceptance. As soon as she got that acceptance that I have to rely on other people to look after me, this is what my life is, she was incredibly peaceful. And she could be in a lot of pain, but she never complained. She never said she was in pain or anything like that. It was like this acceptance and this inner peace that made everything, made her cope. It really made her cope. And Dad and I today still talk about the incredible inner strength she had when she got to that acceptance. But before that, it was messy. Her mind was messy and her mind was frustrated, as you would say. And she said, I used to dream. She said, I always used to dream where I could run. I always could run in my dreams, but it was just when I woke up, I couldn't. But I just wanted to share that story to help you understand that each person, when you share stories, when you share what's happening in your own life, when you share from your own perspective, people can only understand from their own perception, from their own programmed beliefs. So if somebody is stuck in a programmed belief, they are never, ever, ever going to understand where you're coming from. The only time people can understand where you're coming from is if they are open-minded, willing to try to understand where your perception is and why you have your perception and why they have their own perception. If they go that bit deeper and they're more open-minded, they can understand. So you can have a certain belief and you can be frustrated that other people can't see things the same way as you. And when you have other people that are open-minded and they can see the same as you, it makes you validate yourself more. But we all have different assumptions and perceptions based on our own lived experience. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because I see this so much. And you see it in comments, you know, you just see a video and you can read all the comments. And from the comments, you can understand where people's perceptions are. And how did they get to that perception? From growing up, from their lived experiences, from their programmed beliefs.